Candidate Barack Obama said during his campaign that no president should unilaterally initiate military conflict without congressional authority. I agree with that statement. It's a very important constitutional principle and something that I think deserves debate. I think the most important thing we do as representatives is voting on whether or not to go to war. If Congress doesn't vote to go to war or doesn't vote on the notion of going to war, we would have an unlimited presidency, and this is a very dangerous notion. I would take this position no matter what the party affiliation were of the president, because I believe very strongly in the constitutional checks and balances. We will vote today on the president's own words, verbatim. The president said during the election, the president does not have the power under the Constitution to unilaterally authorize a military attack in a situation that does not involve stopping an actual or imminent threat to the nation. Clearly, the circumstances in Libya do not rise to this, and I think this vote is incredibly important. Madison wrote that the Constitution supposes what history demonstrates, that the executive is the branch most interested in war and most prone to it. Therefore, the Constitution has, with studied care, given that power to the legislature. "Don't tread on me" was a motto and a rallying cry for our founding fathers. The new motto of Congress appears to be, "Tread on me, please tread on me." The Congress has become not just a rubber stamp for an unlimited presidency, but worse, Congress has become a doormat to be stepped upon, to be ignored, and basically to be treated as irrelevant. Now, some would say, well, we had no time. We had to go to war. There was no time for debate. When we were attacked in World War II on December 7th, Pearl Harbor, within 24 hours, this body came together and voted to declare war on Japan. There is no excuse for the Senate not to vote on going to war before we go to war. The president had time to go to the United Nations, have a discussion and a vote. The president had time to go to the Arab League, have a discussion and a vote. The president had the time to go to NATO, but the president had no time to come to the People's House, to the Congress, and ask, as the Constitution dictates, for the approval of the American people and for the approval of Congress. Now, why is this important? It's important because when our nation was founded, we were founded as a constitutional republic. We placed limitations not only on the president, but on the Congress. We are supposed to obey the Constitution. These are important principles, and we have gone beyond that. We have gotten to the point where my question is, are we even obeying the Constitution in this body? This is a sad day. This is a sad day for America. The thing is we need to have checks and balances. Do we want an unlimited presidency? A presidency that could take us to war anywhere, anytime, without the approval of Congress? Now, some have said, well, we're going to have a vote sometime in the next couple weeks. When we get around to it, we may have a debate about Libya. Had the president showed true leadership, the president would have, when he called the United Nations, when he called the Arab League, when he called NATO, the president would have called the leadership of the Senate and the leadership of the House, and we would have been here within 24 hours having what should be the most momentous debate that this body ever has on sending our young, brave men and women to war. We are currently engaged in 2 wars, and we are now going to be engaged in a 3rd war. Now, the interesting thing is, when we went into Iraq and Afghanistan, we had votes in this body. President Bush came to Congress, and there were votes. The War Powers Act, some on the other side say, well, this is no big deal. The president can do whatever he wants as long as he notifies Congress within a certain period of time. This is not a correct interpretation of the War Powers Act. The War Powers Act does say he needs to notify Congress, but the War Powers Act also says that the president must meet 3 hurdles before taking our troops into harm's way. Number 1, there should be a declaration of war, or there should be an authorization of force from this body, or there should be imminent danger to the nation. None of these 3 things were adhered to. The law was not adhered to. Well, some will say, well, the War Powers Act, no president recognizes it. Well, the War Powers Act is the law of the land, and the president needs to respect not only the statutory law of the land, but the Constitution. I don't think these are trivial questions, but I am bemused, I am confused. I do not understand why your representatives are not down here debating such a momentous thing as going to war. I can think of no vote and no debate more important than sending our young men and women to war. It should be done reluctantly. We should go to war only when threatened as a nation, and when engaged in 2 wars, we should debate the prudence of being involved in a 3rd war. These are not trivial questions, and I am amazed that this body does not take the time to debate whether we should be in Libya. Now, some have said, well, we'll debate it next week. The problem is the debate should occur before we go to war. At this point, we will have a vote. We will have a vote on the president's own words. And I will yield for a minute or 2 for a question, if that's okay. For a question?
Yes.
I will yield for a question from the senator from Utah.
Senator from Utah is recognized.
What we have with this situation with Libya presents us with a fundamental question, one that we have wrestled with for a couple of centuries as a nation. The founding era was a time that was fraught with wars. It was a time when we learned that executives sometimes abuse their power. Sometimes they'll take us into wars in faraway nations without the support of the people, knowing full well that it's the sons and daughters of the people on the ground who are asked to make the ultimate sacrifice for those battles. We channeled the war power in the Constitution so as to make sure that these debates would always come to the forefront, that they would always be brought up by the elected representatives of the people in Congress. And for that reason, although we give power to the President to be the Commander-in-Chief in Article 2 of the Constitution, in Article 1 of the Constitution, we reserve that power, the power to declare war, to Congress. This is how we guarantee that the people's voice will be heard and that people's sons and their daughters won't be sent off to war without some public debate and discussion by those who have been duly elected by the people and stand accountable to the people. We have over time clarified the intent of this, and we've made clear that there are certain steps that have to be taken. We've also made clear that although there is, to be sure, a certain unknown continuum, a continuum that can be hard to define in every circumstance, between, on the one hand, the President's plenary authority as Commander-in-Chief on the one hand, and on the other hand, Congress's power to declare war on the other. There does come a point in which we can recognize that we're at war and that some authorization is required by Congress. This very body, Congress, has, through the War Powers Resolution, attempted to distill some of these principles. And in Section 1541 of the War Powers Act, it's found at 50 United States Code, Section 1541, we are told that there are circumstances, 3 circumstances to be precise.
Senator's time has expired. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, first of all, I want to express my appreciation to the senator from Kentucky